The relationship between Wagner and Nietzsche is well known. But what about Chopin and Nietzsche? What if I told you that Chopin's Barcarolle isn't just a beautiful piece of music, it's a key to understanding Nietzsche's philosophy of life? Well, a little disclaimer. I pronounce Chopin's name as Chopin in Polish instead of Chopin in French, because Chopin, as his music, is Polish. In The Wanderer and His Shadow, Nietzsche says, Chopin's Barcarolle. Almost all states and modes of life have a moment of rapture, and good artists know how to discover that moment. Such a moment there is even in life by the seashore, that dreary, sordid, unhealthy existence, dragged out in the neighborhood of a noisy and covetous rabble. This moment of rapture, Chopin in his Barcarolle expressed in sounds so supremely that gods themselves, when they heard it, might yearn to lie long summer evenings in a boat. Yes, the gods. But isn't God dead? When Nietzsche declared the death of God, he meant the collapse of the Christian God as the moral and metaphysical foundation of the Western world. But the Greek gods were different. They didn't impose absolute morals or promise salvation. Instead, they embodied the complexities of human existence. That's why, in Nietzsche's vision, they can still enjoy music without worrying about redemption. So, what is so special about the Barcarolle? What does Nietzsche mention it as an art form that the gods would enjoy? To answer this, we need to perform what Nietzsche calls a value inversion, and to do that, we'll turn to an unexpected guide, Saint Cecilia. Saint Cecilia and the hierarchy of music in history. To understand what Nietzsche wants to invert, we must first grasp the musical ideology he considered problematic, metaphysical music. This isn't about a specific musical style, but rather a philosophical tradition that dates back to Gregorian chant, flourished in the Baroque era, and reached its peak with Wagner in the late Romantic period. Let's look at an example that illustrates this ideology. I'll draw from a book that I love and highly recommend, The Musical Instrument, a Philosophical Analysis by Bernard Ziff. In it, he analyzes Raphael's painting The Ecstasy of Saint Cecilia. In this work, Saint Cecilia holds an organ and looks up to the heavens, where angels are singing. Below on the ground, broken and abandoned instruments lie scattered. But what does this mean? It reflects a hierarchy of music that has persisted for centuries, from early music through the Renaissance and Baroque, and even into modern times. Vocal music was considered superior because it conveyed a divine message. Instrumental music was secondary because it lacked text and was seen as devoid of spiritual purpose. This interpretation encapsulates quite well the ideology we seek to understand for our value inversion exercise. If we follow Nietzschean logic, what we must do is flip Saint Cecilia around, stop looking to the heavens for a divine voice, and instead direct our gaze towards the instruments, reclaiming them as the true vehicle of human art. Affirmative art. But wait, Nietzsche also said, without music life would be a mistake. Does he mean all music? Nietzsche's views of music is extremely complex and open to multiple interpretations. But in general, we can say that he distinguishes between two forces in affirmative art and warns us about the danger of metaphysical art. The Apollonian and the Dionysian. In The Birth of Tragedy, Nietzsche introduces two aesthetic principles, the Apollonian and the Dionysian. The Apollonian represents form, rationality, and clarity. It's the art of order, structure, and harmony. A perfect example is Bach's well-tempered clavier. Bach's music is meticulously structured, built on principles of symmetry and proportion. His use of counterpoint is a masterclass in balancing logic and creativity. Each piece has an impeccable architecture, with a harmonic and melodic development that feels inevitably logical. Additionally, in my opinion, Bach's solution is always the most efficient solution to the motivic proposal to be developed. Unlike romantic music, which seeks emotional expansion, Bach does not let himself be carried away by uncontrolled passion. His music is contained, reflective, like a manifestation of reason and clarity. Bach's music is not personal but universal. It does not seem to speak to us of individual feelings, but of absolute principles. But if Bach embodies precision and balance, what's the opposite? That's where the Dionysian comes in. The Dionysian. It represents intoxication, the dissolution of the self, and fusion with the absolute. Here we can allude to the idea of the primordial one. In The Birth of Tragedy, section 1, Nietzsche says, "Under the magic of the Dionysian, not only does the bond between man and man lock itself in place once more, but also nature itself, no matter how alienated, hostile, or subjugated, rejoices again in her festival of reconciliation with her prodigal son, man. In the Dionysian state, the individual transcends their separation and is immersed in a total unity, in a state of reconciliation with existence." Although I'm not a fan of anachronisms, and I know it might sound like a stretch, I can think of a better modern example of Dionysian music than certain electronic music genres such as acid, techno, and trance. In these genres, DJ sets aren't tied to a single artist. They are a collage of tracks from many creators. The audience becomes part of a collective ritual where the repetitive rhythms induce a trance-like state, dissolving the self as if an acid were being applied to it, evoking the Dionysian festivals of antiquity. But even here, there's an Apollonian element. The meticulous organization of the set and the precision of the rhythm provide a structural order that guides the experience without stifling its Dionysian essence. The problem of metaphysical music. Nietzsche distinguishes affirmative music, Apollonian and Dionysian, from metaphysical music, which seeks to take us beyond the human realm and incites us to search for a transcendent meaning. Metaphysical music does not simply seek mystical ecstasy. Rather, it ties us to the idea of a beyond. Instead of affirming this existence, it makes us desire another one. Metaphysical music does not invite us to live life as it is, but presents it as a mere passage to something superior or redemptive. One of the clearest examples is Wagner's operas, which are imbued with symbols of redemption, purification, and sacrifice. In the case of Wagner, Nietzsche criticizes this tendency by saying, "Wagner pondered over nothing so deeply as over salvation. His opera is the opera of salvation. Someone always wants to be saved in his operas. Now is a youth and then is a maid. This is his problem." Here lies the fundamental difference with affirmative music. While metaphysical music promises to transcend this life, affirmative music immerses us in it, celebrating existence here and now. The Barcarolle as affirmative art. Now, let's return to the upside-down Saint Cecilia and Chopin's Barcarolle. The Barcarolle has clear Apollonian qualities. Its structure is precise, with formal clarity and internal logic, but unlike Bach's well-tempered clavier, it also embraces Dionysian expressive freedom. Its rubato gives a flowing wave-like motion, balancing order and spontaneity without ever descending into chaos. It's as if Chopin captured the tension between structure and emotion, between the rational and the ecstatic. This work is deeply personal. It speaks to us of Chopin's subjectivity, not of a universal principle, and it's precisely in works like this, or in Greek tragedies, which combine both the Apollonian and the Dionysian, where Nietzsche saw affirmative art at its peak. So, what does he suggest we do? Nietzsche asks us to experience them from and through our humanity, to fully live the art that Chopin gives us, because it does not impose a dogma or a supreme truth upon us. Therefore, it does not demand that we kneel before it. It does not promise salvation, nor does it ask for faith, nor does it burden us with a divine purpose. Instead, it envelops us, caressing us with its vitality. Nietzsche doesn't want us to listen to the Barcarolle as mere aesthetic pleasure. He wants us to hear it as an affirmation of life itself, a reminder to embrace existence in all its beauty and complexity. So, next time you listen to Chopin's Barcarolle, don't just hear it, experience it as Nietzsche would, as a celebration of life, a moment of rapture that affirms our existence here and now. Let it remind you to embrace the beauty and complexity of being alive. Well, that's it for today. Thank you so much for listening. See you next time.